Hey everyone! Today, we are getting our hands dirty in the world of industrial security. And I mean really hands-on. We're not just going to talk about theories, we are going to walk through a super realistic scenario. We'll see how an attacker could take over a smart server room, and, this is the important part, how a simple digital wall can stop them dead in their tracks. So, let's just kick things off with a question to get you thinking. Picture your server room's air conditioning. The one thing keeping all that expensive equipment from melting. Now imagine it's controlled by a computer. What if someone, anyone, from anywhere in the world could just flip the off switch? Yeah, the fallout from that could be absolutely devastating. All right, so let's set the stage here. We need to understand the prize our attacker is after. And that prize is this: the critical control system for a modern server room. And trust me, this isn't just a fancy thermostat on the wall. This is the central brain running the entire show. And look at what this thing is connected to. It's managing everything. It keeps the temperature just right, it literally controls the locks on the doors, it kicks on the cooling when needed, and it sounds the alarm if anything goes wrong. It's the single point of control, which of course also makes it the single point of failure. So you might be asking, how do all these different pieces of equipment talk to each other? Well, they use a special language called Modbus. Now, here's the kicker. Modbus was invented decades ago, way back when networks were small, isolated, and everyone on them was trusted. It has basically zero built-in security. It's kind of like having a very private conversation in an open field, assuming no one else is listening, except you've accidentally broadcasted over a global loudspeaker. Okay, so now let's flip the script. Let's put on our black hat for a moment and see this from the attacker's perspective. They don't need some secret government exploit. All they need is a little bit of knowledge and the patience to look for an unlocked door. The first thing any attacker does is reconnaissance. They use a really common tool, you see it here, called Nmap, to scan the system's address. You can think of this as them walking down a digital street and just rattling every doorknob they see. And they're not just rattling random doors. They are specifically checking port 5020, which is the default, well-known port for Modbus. And there it is. Jackpot. The scan comes back with the two words an attacker loves to see: port open. They didn't just find an unlocked door. They found the main entrance wide open with a welcome mat out front. So the door's open. But a good attacker wants to know what's on the other side before they walk in. So they run a slightly different scan. This one basically asks the port, hey, what are you? What service are you running? And bingo! The system just happily reports back that it's running Modbus. The attacker now knows for sure that they can speak the system's native language, a language with no security. They have a confirmed direct line right into the server room's brain. So now the attacker is in. What's next? Well, first, they're just going to listen. They're going to read the system's data to figure out what's going on. And then they're going to try to write their own data and take complete control. And just look how ridiculously simple this is. With a basic Python script and just one line of code, the attacker sends a command. This read holding registers command is the Modbus way of saying, hey, tell me everything you're doing right now. And because Modbus is so trusting, the system just sends back this string of numbers. Now, to you and me, that might just look like random digits. But to the attacker, this is pure gold. This data is the live status. That first number is the temperature, and the other ones and zeros represent things like door status, cooling systems, and alarms. They are literally seeing what the control system is seeing in real time. And this, right here, is where things go from bad to worse. I mean, it's one thing to be a fly on the wall just listening in, but can the attacker actually grab the controls? Can they become the puppet master? Oh yeah, the answer is a resounding yes. With another incredibly simple command, write_multiple registers, the attacker isn't asking anymore. They're telling. They are sending new values to the system. In this case, telling it to change the status of the cooling system and the alarm. And the system, it just says, okay. The confirmation comes back, true. The command was successful. At this point, it is game over. The attacker has the keys to the kingdom. They can shut down the cooling, set off fake alarms, even unlock the server room doors, all with a single line of code from a laptop anywhere on Earth. Okay, that was terrifyingly easy, right? So now for the good news. How do we stop this? Let's switch hats. become the defenders, and build ourselves a firewall, a simple but incredibly effective digital wall. You know, the logic behind a really solid firewall is actually beautiful in its simplicity. Think of it like a bouncer at an exclusive club. First, you give the bouncer a very specific guest list, an allowed list. Second, you tell the bouncer to only let people on that list in. And third, this is the most important rule of all, you tell the bouncer to deny absolutely everyone else by default. If your name's not on the list, you are not getting in, period. And here's what that looks like in the real world on a router. We're literally just creating that guest list. We're calling it control_allowed, and we're adding the specific IP addresses of the computers that are actually supposed to be talking to the system. These are our only two VIPs. Now, we give our bouncer the rest of the rules. The first one says accept traffic if it comes from our VIP guest list and it's trying to go to the Modbus port. But that second rule, the drop rule, that's the hammer. That tells the router to just throw away any other connection attempt. If you're not on the list, you don't get in. Simple as that. All right, the wall is up, the bouncer has the list, the rules are in place. Let's put our attacker hat back on one last time and see what happens when we try the exact same attack again. Now, this slide, this says it all. It's a night and day difference. Before, our scan screamed open. After our firewall, the exact same scan comes back with filtered. Now, filtered is even better than closed. It means the firewall isn't even bothering to respond. For all the attacker knows, there's nothing there at all. The door hasn't just been locked, it's completely vanished. So what about their Python script? What happens when they try to read or write data now? Well, they get this message, connection timed out. They're sending their requests, but they're just hitting our digital wall and going nowhere. They're shouting into the void. The connection is totally blocked. The attack has failed completely. So after all that, what's the big takeaway here? It's that security can't just be a band-aid you slap on at the end. It has to be baked in from the beginning. It has to be part of the design. By understanding that a system like Modbus has weaknesses, and then proactively building a defense, like our simple firewall, we can protect our most critical infrastructure from some very, very real threats. You know, we've spent this time locking down one very specific digital front door. But it makes you wonder, doesn't it? From the smart devices in our homes to the power grid that we all rely on, what other systems out there are still speaking these old, trusting languages on a network that is anything but trustworthy? What other digital doors are just sitting there, hiding in plain sight, waiting to be found? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me.